Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons, unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm really pleased to be joined by Robin Vermaat, founder and CEO of RV Consultancy. Now, Robin and his team help businesses across the Middle East rethink how they move and manage goods, from supply chain and warehousing through digital logistics, robotics, automation, and strategic transformation. It's a dynamic space. Rising e-commerce, tighter delivery expectations, global supply chain shifts, and Robin is right at the intersection of strategy, operations, and tech. So Robin, thanks so much for making the time. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, for having me on the podcast. Looking very much forward to it. As you rightly said, I'm Robin. I run a company called RV Consultancy. It's a logistics consulting boutique. And where we not only operate within the region here, but also the GCC. So we focus on Oman and Saudi as well as other GCC countries. But these are the mains for here. And then we also focus on Europe. So as I'm from the Netherlands, we also focus on Netherlands itself as well as France. Even for companies that want to set up that are based in the Netherlands or in Europe or wherever, and they want to open here in the Middle East, I can do that for them as well through my eco partners that I have, as I have collaborations with the authorities.
And you founded RV Consultancy to help clients reimagine logistics and warehousing for a digital era. How would you describe your leadership vision? What changes are you trying to drive in the businesses you work with?
What I try to do is to be as humane possible, right? So I try to be a leader that thinks about the personal aspect as well, not per se on the business values first. So I like to have that driven first. And with that, we try to build commercial growth for companies. And I do see that works better than that you are more focused on specifically on growth by business, if you know what I mean. The focus, I find, if your focus is more on a human touch and to be more receptive and interactive with the person, that helps in the long run better than that you think only transactional, because in the end a person buys from a person, right? So, and I think if you manage to have a proper relation and an open relation, it brings you very far, and especially as being from the Netherlands, and I'm saying especially because we're quite forward and quite direct, which helps as well a lot in the business here. So yeah, with that I try to lead my team that I have so far, but also to lead myself, right? To not deviate from other things, or to just think more transactional.
And how would you say that vision has evolved as technologies like robotics and AI have matured?
Good question. Look, nowadays, especially the last, let's say, at least 5 years now, because RV Consultancy is existing 5 years, but when we started, it was not that much a driven aspect, the digitalization and the robotics, but down the road it came more and more present. A lot of the companies were more focused on digitalization, on being automated. So that has definitely evolved during the years, and during COVID it has enhanced that far much more than pre-COVID, to say it like that. So yeah, I do think that the way forward, a lot of the companies that are setting up either new warehouses or entering as a warehouse operator, I hope, and that's also my advice 9 times out of 10, that they start with a semi-automated warehouse or even a fully automated warehouse, right? So to be with the pace that we are in right now, because yeah, everything, as we said, is going automated.
So you talk about semi versus fully automated. Could you give us sort of a brief snapshot of what each would potentially look like?
Yeah, of course. So traditionally, what you see now is that the companies, the freight forwarding companies that have warehouses here in the UAE for a long time, they all work manually. So that means there are labor inside a warehouse doing the packing, the stacking, etc., all the warehouse related stuff. So these kind of companies, these are the older generation companies where they have the labor on the forefront. They 9 times out of 10 convert to semi-automated. So semi-automated means that they will say 50% we do automation and 50% we do labor still. So that's the semi-automation. So there's still labor in the warehouse, but there's also a section of the warehouse that is automated. That can be by AMRs, so automated robotics. That can be by omni-channels. That can be by shuttles. Whatever the solution is for that particular business. And then you have fully automated. So fully automated, as it says, means that there's no labor or maybe one or two just to coordinate that everything goes well, because majority of the workforce within the warehouse goes by robotics, so either by omni-channels or by AMRs or shuttles or whatever the business solution is for that particular client.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's super interesting. And
Mhm.
what would you say is the biggest or maybe the most common operational gap that you see between your client's ambition versus their execution?
Understanding from the business, I often see, so a lot of the companies, they want to grow and they want to grow exponentially. Sometimes they want to have it straight after a week or a month or whatsoever. That is not always possible. 9 times out of 10, it's not possible. You cannot grow all of a sudden in a week's time or something. You will have a pipeline and you will have a vision, and then you need to do maybe certain changes within the organization on operational level or on a commercial level or even on a management level, right? So all these things takes time. That doesn't happen overnight. So I often see that there is a sort of a gap between understanding and wanting. Um, that's one thing that you see often. And with that, we try to guide them and to help where it's possible, right? So transformation of growth or of transformation of management, that takes time because people needs to get adjusted to certain things, and that's often a key element for companies. They they tend to want something very fast, which is, I think, human nature. People just want things fast, and especially now in this particular era, people want things fast. So yeah, that is one thing what we see often as a hurdle.
Yeah, people certainly want things now. And if
Yeah,
they don't want it
yeah,
now, they want it yesterday.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
Robin, when you look
Well,
across the warehouses and the supply chain operations, are there any core processes that typically make or break efficiency?
I think you need to have proper software solutions. So in the operations, you work with WMS systems, so warehouse management systems, or transportation software solutions, right? So if you do not have these proper programs, these proper solutions, that could be a burden for the team, but also for the company, for the growth, right? So you need to be sure that you go with the right set of tools for you that is for you as an organization important. I do have within my partner system some companies that offer software solutions or WMS solutions. So 9 times out of 10, when we speak with companies, we just say, okay, well, we can do your growth or your strategy, whatever you like. But some might also need to look at what systems you work at and the operational systems, right? So that could be sometimes that they are outdated or backdated. And then I could say, okay, well, I have a pool of eco partners that I call them, that can provide these particular solutions that you might look for, either being a WMS, either being a transportation management systems. So these are individuals that I work together with, and they can offer that as a solution within the solution that I am providing. So often it's a end-to-end solution that we are providing to the client, and programs, and on the operations side, it's very important that is up to date.
And would you say that tech is the toughest part of transforming a client?
Yes and no, I would say. Look, if I think, and I'm thinking more on the rational side, if it is an elderly client, tech could be hard to understand, right? Tech could be hard to understand for the older generation. Let's say it like that. So that's why I'm saying yes and no. And if you're having a company that is very tech savvy, or the founders are very tech savvy or very young, they grow up in a tech savvy environment, right? Currently, right now, we are very tech savvy. I assume that the generation of now is very tech savvy. So then it's not so difficult to let that understand that technology is important within your business. And then depending on the certain technology that the client needs, then yeah, that is a no-brainer sometimes for the newer generation of founders, of entrepreneurs. But if you're working with an older generation, yeah, it could be difficult, because yeah, it's hard for them to understand that technology is a way forward. Everybody sees technology is a way forward, and if you want to grow with the environment and with the business, you need to make your company tech savvy. You need to make it tech ready, to say it like that. Same as the digitalization side, same as robotics side, depending on the industry that you are in. Otherwise, you will fall behind. And as an entrepreneur or an owner of a company, you don't want to fall behind. You want to be in the front. So it has a double side. But I think as well, after a couple of years, maybe 5 or maybe 10 more years, it will not be that difficult anymore to convince companies to invest or to look into technology for their company, or to be technology driven as a company.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, I kind of feel like it's a case of, jump on the bandwagon or sort of fade into into the history books.
No, this is totally right. But also the other dangerous part is that, rightly what you said, jump on the bandwagon, and a lot of the companies jump on the bandwagon, and they claim to be a tech company, but not everybody is a tech company. If you have a company that does freight forwarding, but everything is digitalized and you have the latest software, you're not a tech company. You're a freight forwarder, but you are very tech savvy or tech ready for the business, but you're still a freight forwarder, right? Or a 3PL organization. But yeah, that's also something what we see often or hear often, that new companies are entering the market and claiming themselves to be a tech company, and some might be, but some might not be, but they just like to the name, and as you said, they jump on the bandwagon, and then everybody says, I'm a tech company.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy to try sort of sift through those who are tech companies
Yeah,
versus those who are just using it as a buzzword, right?
yeah, of course, yeah,
So you
100%.
mentioned well, you've mentioned robotics a couple of times. Having done our research, it seems like you champion robotic solutions for inventory and order fulfillment. What's the biggest implementation challenge companies face when adopting automation?
Very good question. Often what comes to play with these kind of things, let me first say that um, robotics, I like robotics. I like robotics. I think it's a very cool thing, personally, but also for business wise. And hence, with that, I have also more than one, two partners that do these solutions. Um, with that, I could say the Chinese are very leaders in this. That is just to give a fact. Um, we have in the UE also very nice companies that does the robotics within warehouses. We all know of them, and I like that kind of solution. That is very much driven with the solutions that I try to do for my clients. Majority of the clients are freight forwarders, 3PLs. Now, with robotics, I think that you have something in hand that can enhance business for companies, but there's always a cost, right? So it's not cheap, and we know that labor here in the UE, well, let's say the GCC, because we're not only doing the GCC, but labor here is very cheap. We have neighbors from the Asian countries, India, Pakistan, but also from the African countries, and even from the Philippines. So these countries, they have cheap labor, and then your investment for robotics, or to invest in a warehouse to make it robotic ready or to make it automated with robotics, it's often a hard discussion. So coming on your question, what we see is that the discussion is often driven on rate, on ROI, on ROI versus the labor that they have right now, right? Now, a modern day company that is originated in this era, they would often choose to go for automated, either full or semi, because they know the value in the long run. Now, older generation companies, it's harder because they have worked for a long time with labor, and now automation comes into picture, which is a new era, and it's hard for that to justify, right? So you still have cheap labor, you still have cheap labor. That's the majority of the discussion always. But on the other side, if you do robotics, you have non-stop 24/7 activity, right? Because the robot will not stop. There's no break, only a breakdown, but that happens. But other than that, there's no break in lunchtime or whatsoever. There's no off time. So it's often a high win for companies, but it's a high investment. And as I said, often that is the driven factor where you negotiate on for a company, and to show them by stats or by results from previous cases what the end product has created for a particular company.
And I mean, what are those ROI indicators that you focus in on in a case like what you've just described, where it's a more traditional company and you're proposing, full automation with robots? I can appreciate where they're coming from in the sense of, well, it's working right now. It's not costing me a lot from a labor perspective. Now you're suggesting this robotics that's going to cost me, a fair chunk of change. And I can understand what your proposal is as well. It's 24/7, as you say. There's probably less error as well because you're sort of removing the human, less downtime. So I can understand both sides of the argument. What do you focus on in those conversations to convince them to go with the robotics?
Well, as we were saying earlier, I think the current era that we are going into is a digital era, which is also not only for personal uses that we see, but also for corporate use. And the businesses that are having warehouses, they can only, maybe that is very, very black and white said, but they can only survive if they go either full or half automation. That's just a given fact. They will run behind if they don't do. So these are arguments that are being given. Then on top of that, always the operational team that I work with that provides the robotics, they will also provide operational backing, which means the downtime of a robot is minimum. There's no labor. There is hardly anything else. So the cost is always a driven factor, right? So if they decide not to do that and decide to be fully labored fully labored, in the end, it will maybe a year or 2 years be okay. But after that, you will fall behind, or even you will be kicked out of the market because you're just behind because everything else, your competition or your colleagues, are all driven on automation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of get the sense that the need to move into a more advanced method of operating, regardless of your industry, the need to move into more modern technology, the window is sort of starting to close slightly. Like if you don't make that move soon, before you know it, in 5 years' time, that move might not even be possible. You are going to be so outdated. An example is I had a conversation with a print media company, and they're still operating on a DOS system, and they said to me, "We need to make this move." And I said, "I can help you, but I mean that is a massive, massive project, and it's going to take a lot of time." So I mean that's obviously a very extreme example. And I think you'd rarely find companies who are still operating on DOS systems, but that's the extreme case. But you kind of feel like that window is like you need to move soon, or else, as you say, in the future, just a couple of years ahead, you might just disappear.
Yeah, well, 100%. Another example could be that companies, and that is maybe very, very old example, but could be that companies are still running on a landline internet, right? Versus everybody now is wireless or Wi-Fi, or there's no cable anymore, right? Back in the old days. So that is happening, versus companies like that, versus companies that do wire, you're so much ahead. You're so much ahead with your operations, with your time, and with the movement of the current scenarios.
So, Robin, as RV Consultancy has grown, how do you approach client acquisition and retention in what is a relatively competitive space?
Yeah, so love the question. What we often do is networking. We use networking, social media. 9 times out of 10, I get my leads or my contacts via LinkedIn, and also I get a lot of word to mouth. So I've been in the industry very long, almost 17 years, and I know a lot of the people within the logistics industry. So word of mouth is definitely in the top three of how I get referrals or clients. Number one is obviously, well, not obviously, but number one is LinkedIn, referrals, and then networkers events, which I attend on a regular basis on the events that I think that could be beneficial for me. Because there are many events happening in the UAE, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi. But so yeah, these are the three top that I use for getting leads or getting clients. Retention, I always like to be in touch with my client, right? Either being a long time client or being a new client, I always will be in touch. Either being it just a casual hi, how's everything, how's business, or having a coffee and talk strategy or business with the particular client. That depends on the client itself and how my interaction is or how my relation is with them. But 9 times out of 10, it's very friendly. I'm very open, very easy to talk with, and also very easy to be approached or approach others. So yeah, it all goes very naturally for me, and that I can see that back in the network that I have and how I lay within the network to the companies.
I often find with companies there's a very keen and understandable need and want to grow and to scale. But then the challenge with that growth comes the quality of delivery. If you grow too quickly, too soon, you drop off on the quality of your delivery and quality of your services. How do you think about balancing that challenge?
Yeah, that's also a very nice question. So in the first few years, when I just started RV Consultancy, I was very much focused on growing. So within, I think, the first year or two, I grow with maybe 200%, almost, yeah. And that had a specific reason, because I started within COVID times. I started in 2020, right in COVID times. And I've seen in the time of that a lot of the companies created collaborations, either JVs or collaborations, or took over other companies. And that was because of the COVID. And I thought, okay, that for me, I think that is a hint, because you can do as much as you can as an individual. But I always believe that if you are with a bigger, or well, not a bigger team, but if you are collaborating with others, you can succeed far much more. So my initial process in the first 2 years was to target companies that are dominating a specific sector. So in that time, the buzzwords were robotics, warehousing, automation, these kind of buzzwords. So I chose at that time certain companies that I wanted to collaborate with, and I grow exponentially. So I made a lot of collaborations in the first 2 years, and then because then you come to the point that you grow too much, then you lose track of your business or focus on specific growth niches. When that happened, after I think the fourth year approximately, we said, okay, I have the base, fine how it is. We target now what we are good at. So we're good at growing companies in a specific region or a specific industry, which is UE, GCC, logistics, 3PLs. So my focus was more to that, which eventually led to a project that I did for companies. But I do still believe that how I did it, the path, is still the right path. Because if I needed to start now with certain companies to retain, to make collaborations, it will be far much harder to do than back then. So I'm happy that we pushed for a lot of the collaborations, that we grow fast, and then we stabilized it, and then we were focusing on the core businesses and the solutions via the network that I have. We could also provide full end-to-end solution. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to understand how your client base has evolved as digital adoption has accelerated.
Yeah, well, I think they have evolved. Now, what you see is that the companies are using digital solutions, tracking the shipments. Some of the companies that I spoke with in the past that were having no robotics have now semi-robotics. So they've seen the digital transformation as a necessity, and with some of them, I'm happy that I could be a part, or could have had a push towards that. So that's always nice. But others, they also see from the surroundings, right? That is a need for them to grow their business. So yeah, I can see that the companies are adopting digitalization in a nice way.
You've mentioned collaborations, and it seems like partnerships is central to your model. From technology providers to logistics operators. I mean, how do you go about choosing the right partners, and what makes those relationships thrive?
Yeah, it's a good question. Nowadays, I do get quite a lot of questions for collaboration, and I can't just do everybody to collaborate with, because that's just not how I work, but it's also not healthy. I always think that it needs to be a win-win for both of us. That's of course the main driven factor. But also another factor for me is that I need to like the company or the solution that they're providing, and as well the person that I'm speaking with. Because if if it doesn't click, or if there's no vibe that I think from now, okay, no, then yeah, your solution can be as good as this, but then it will be very transactional. And I think that as I said in the beginning, all my career, being it as an entrepreneur or being it as a employee, I've always had a friendly conversation kind of way of working, right? I always build relation, and if I can't build a relation with a potential partner, collaboration partner, I think then it will be very transactional. It will be just business driven. That is also on the side is also normal, because of course in the end you're here to make money. That's one thing. But I also strongly believe that people buy from people, and if the people or if the person or the company don't like you, he will not buy from you. That's simple as that, right? So yeah, I always try to feel how my guts are with the person, with the company, and then obviously I do also my due diligence, right? That's part of that. But if I don't feel right or whatsoever, or there's something, I usually say, okay, no, not for now, or I have enough, or that's the usually responses that you might have then. But yeah, due diligence is also key, because although if I have a good feeling with the person and the company and the solution, but I already have a solution similar to the solution that they are proposing, then I can also say, yeah, I can't do it because XYZ reasons. I have already a similar kind of company that I work with that does a similar kind of solution that you're offering. So I try to be also niche with the solutions that I offer to my clients. So not that I have the same solution providers for the same kind of issue that the client has. So I try to be specific with that.
Kind of feel like the logistics market is getting quite crowded. The global players are expanding, local innovators are rising fast. How do you see competition evolving, and where does RV Consultancy position itself within that shift?
Yeah, no, freight forwarders are coming a lot, especially in Dubai. There are just many. How we position, I chose to be in Abu Dhabi. For the main reason was because there's less competition here for a logistic consulting boutique. There's just less competition here, so that is fine. Abu Dhabi, Dubai is not so far away, as we were rightly saying. It's maybe an hour away, depending where you be. So I chose to be here. That's one thing. How I also see myself is that I am a very agile company, which means that I do not have much overhead. It's only me, depending on the region, but I have not a huge team like the likes of colleagues of myself, like PwC or EY or Deloitte. These are well known in the logistics and consulting industry, but they're costly, and that comes because they are coming often with a whole team for a project, which is fine. But I don't have these things, so often my costs are always lower than the top four, than the big four consultancies, just because it's me. And that is often liked by a lot of the freight forwarders and the 3PLs, because if you are looking to grow, there is cost involved for sure. But if you can minimize that cost by having an agile consultancy firm like myself, it's sometimes easier than to choose for a big four consultancy.
And how do you see the client's expectations changing as the competition heats up?
I think the expectations of clients is still relevant data, accurate data, real-time data. So these are very keen for companies, real-time data as well, which also solutions that I have within my portfolio. So the companies are often looking for that. And then if you have a solution that is suiting for the issue for the client, then you have also quite often a win situation, because everybody offers solutions, but not every solution is a key to the problem of a client, right? So there's also very much key to understand that you do the right thing. You need to provide a solution for the problem of the client. And I think these are the main things.
As you look ahead, Robin, let's look into the future for a second, the next 3, 5, maybe even far as 10 years ahead. What excites you the most about the next phase of digital logistics within the GCC, but also within the sort of broader global market, and the role that RV Consultancy will play in that future?
Yeah, no, I do see that digitalization, autonomous, is going to be a driven factor for the logistics. Being it here in the GCC, being it in Europe, you see it a little bit more in Europe happening, but obviously the GCC and the UAE want to move from the traditional way of working towards the modern way of working, like what's happening in Europe or what's happening in Asia. So that is definitely going to happen. Autonomous shift of logistics, which means that autonomous deliveries for personal aspect on like for Amazon deliveries. You can expect drone deliveries, which is autonomous. You can expect autonomous within the port locations. So the ports in Abu Dhabi or the port in Jebel Ali. There are already some ports that are autonomous, where they are picking up containers autonomously by DP World, for example. But that is definitely a future where the UAE strives to go to, and that's looking only more and more great for RV Consultancy, because I feel that I am also quite tech savvy, and I am following the trends what are happening within the UAE market or within the GCC market. So yeah, that definitely is on the agenda, and if we need to adapt to providers that provide autonomous solutions, then we create these partnerships.
And Robin, if our listeners and viewers want to reach out and connect with you and the team at RV, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, I would say via my LinkedIn. I can also ask you to do it via Instagram. We are also having a social media on Instagram, which is rv.consultancy. And on LinkedIn, it's either myself, Robin Vermaat, or you go to our website page, which is RV Consultancy, RV Consultancy. So these are the handles that we have. I'm more than happy to book in a free consultancy that we do, which is available via my website on LinkedIn, and it will be directing you to my Calendly to do a booking.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been a very interesting discussion, learning a little bit more about digital logistics in general, but then also diving into the inner workings of RV consultancy. It sounds like you're positioning yourself really well for ongoing growth, and I wish you all the best in those endeavors.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. I really appreciate the podcast, and the questions were very good. I hope the listeners and everybody that is seeing it or listening to it enjoyed it. And if they want to reach out, please do so.
Thanks, Robin.
Thanks.
That's it for today's episode of the Aegance Offscript Podcast. If this conversation sparked something, a thought, a question, or a new way of seeing your own business, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.